Hey everybody, I'm attorney Mike Contant. I've had several clients recently ask about sealing their criminal records. So I want to make a short video to discuss the 3 benefits to sealing your criminal record. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between expunging a record and sealing a record. When you expunge a record, what happens is all trace of that record, all police reports, all information in all the databases, in the courts, in the police departments, in the probation office for the state, it's just erased and wiped out forever. Okay, that's expunging. It's also much more difficult to do than sealing a record. It's only done under very specific circumstances. When you seal a criminal record, what you're doing is essentially the records remain in all those places, but when certain people make inquiries, like employers or other people concerning whether or not you have a criminal record and what's on it, they're simply told that you have no record. Now, there's an exception for this. The police still have access to the records and the courts still have access to the records, particularly when they're performing their duties relative to criminal justice matters. In other words, if you're picking up new offenses or you're being investigated for new offenses, in particular, the police and courts are going to have access to those records. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 benefits that we see in sealing a criminal record. The first is that if your criminal record is sealed, you're not going to be disqualified for sitting for an examination or applying or receiving an appointment to any sort of public job. So in other words, you want to sit for the civil service examination, you're not precluded from doing that. You're not precluded by your record from receiving a particular job in either the state or local governments in Massachusetts. That's one great effect that sealing has. Also, you're not going to be precluded from obtaining any public housing. Some people with certain things on their criminal records are not allowed in public housing. If your record is sealed, that doesn't disqualify you from that. You're also not going to be disqualified from receiving any particular professional license. So if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything that requires a professional license, you're not going to be precluded from applying for those things because you have a criminal record if it's been sealed. So in fact, in many of the applications, they're supposed to put a notation indicating that if you have a sealed criminal record, you can answer the question about criminal record that you have no criminal record. All right. The second benefit is that a criminal record that's been sealed can't be used against you in most court proceedings. Okay. There are exceptions, but most court proceedings, so like if you have a civil lawsuit or something like that, or something before a board or commission, it's not going to be used against you there. The very limited exceptions are if you have a new criminal case. It's obviously going to be used against you there to determine a number of things like bail or sentencing if you're found guilty. Things like that are going to be used in those circumstances. Also, if you're involved in any proceeding that deals with child custody. So if you've been, again, if you're in a divorce battle with your spouse about who gets custody of the kid, or a proceeding in the juvenile court for abuse and neglect of a child or something like that, a criminal record in some circumstances, if it's been sealed, will be allowed to be used there, but it's not just automatically allowed there. If one party wants to use it, they have to bring it to the court's attention. They think such a record exists, and then the court, the judge, looks at it in private. They call it in camera. He looks at it on his own to decide whether or not there's any relevance to it, and then if he decides there's some relevance, there'll be a hearing to determine whether or not it can or cannot be used in that child custody type proceeding. So in most court proceedings, it's not going to be able to be used. And the third, and quite frankly, one of the most important benefits to sealing the record is that it's much easier to do than expunging a record. It does give you that protections we talked about, but also as long as your offense is one that qualifies, and most do qualify for sealing, and you've waited the required amount of time, most likely your record is going to be sealed if you make such a request. So those are the 3 benefits as we see them to sealing your criminal record. If you have any other questions about sealing your criminal record, the benefits, the effects, etc., please feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, or leave me a comment below the video. Thanks, and have a great day.